Hey, howdy, howdy, howdy. It's been a long time, everybody. Let's hope everyone can hear me. Not gonna rush the intro here. Let me know how I sound. Welcome, the 45 of you here. It's been a long time. Long time. Thanks for everybody who's been reaching out and messaging me over the last almost exactly a year since I posted. We'll go through what I've been doing, where I was, what my plans are. Kind of do a quick little review of what I was kind of in the middle of when I took my leave from YouTube, and yeah, give everybody kind of a chance to settle in. I miss you guys too. Where you been? Yeah, we'll get into all of that, I promise. Life. But yeah, so the usual stuff. Most importantly, and my probably most commonly asked question, anomalous America. Where are we at? Well, episode 24 is about 90% done. North Dakota. Going forward, we're going to be doing 2 a month. Most likely Tuesdays at 3:30, but could change to Thursdays. But likely on Tuesdays. So yeah, Anomalous America, North Dakota will be on the 18th of this month, and then every 2 weeks. I've got a big chunk of South Dakota done as well. So episode 25 is about halfway through. So getting that out of the way, because that's the majority of the questions I get. But I've also been working on a little bit of radium material, and I kind of want to wrap up my Irish Shaturia content to get back into Buried Empires of Ancient America. And to wrap up this little live stream, we'll have kind of a Q&A, and I'll jump into an article about the revolutions of time. I just felt like it was fitting since I've been gone for so long. And for those of you that have followed along, I'm kind of obsessive when it comes to time, and my videos on the idea of the simulation that we live in, and so on and so forth. But yeah, so where are we at now? 85. Awesome. I'm just going to kind of look at chat here. A lot has changed in my time away. StreamYard is very different. My computer has changed. My camera has changed. My microphone has changed. So I'm definitely feeling rusty and nervous. So appreciate everybody's patience. Let's just kind of go through chat here. Robert, good to see you as always. Never miss a... Oh, Jillian, good to see you. Sherry, thanks for being here. A lot of familiar faces, a lot of new people as well. Micmac, good to see you. Flower Jones, good to see you. I sound good. Okay. Pyramids in Crimea discovered right before it got annexed isn't covered by you guys. I've also kind of got a small little video. I got an email recently, by the way. For those of you that remember beforehand, I had got my email hacked, and during my time away, had got it back. So the email that's linked on YouTube, the Archivist on YouTube, the Archivist on YT, is now in my possession again. So I can now receive emails through my actual linked account. So I look forward to actually being able to have a little more correspondence with you guys. I'm also back on social media. I'm going to be posting regularly on Twitter and on Instagram, especially leading up to episodes. So for those of you that do or don't follow me on Instagram or um, Twitter, it's the same handle as it is on YouTube. Um, I For those of you that have seen Anomalous America, I post um, kind of hints as to what I'm going to be covering leading up to the episodes, or I put little shorts together. Um, and it's pretty common for me to go through my Twitter as part of my Archivist series just because it helps me organize my ideas and allows those of you that actually follow me on social media to see some of what I'm doing leading up to the episodes. So, um, yeah, we're kind of back in at full swing. I'm going to get my Anomalous America episode 24 posts going. So I'll have like a full thread for that pretty much finished leading up to the episode. I also have a kind of an intro video that I've got mostly done um, about the Mandan Indians. So that'll be a short, probably like 20-minute video, maybe a little bit less. That'll be kind of an intro into my North Dakota episode just because there's so much material there and I'm so fascinated with the Mandan Indians. I've posted a lot about them over the years and I didn't want it to take up a huge chunk of my Anomalous America episode. So expect that before the 18th. Um, yeah, so Radium, I want to wrap that up. I only have about 3 or 4 episodes worth of material that I really felt like I needed to get into my catalog to feel like it was somewhat complete. And for those of you who don't utilize my playlists, I can't recommend the playlist enough. If there's a video that stands out to you that you enjoyed, it's in a playlist, and there's going to be dozens, if not more, videos that are all kind of in that same wheelhouse. My Radium series, I am not even sure how many videos are in there now. Over 10. Um, I also have I want to add a few more episodes to my Monsters series, which is, kind of like um, the remnants of the changeover event, or however you want to describe it. Some of these crazy, dragons and beasts and animals. I have a few of those that I'd like to finish up, 3 or 4. But yeah, as we get farther into Anomalous America, the Etruscan buried empires material will become more prevalent, and I'll be able to kind of slip my way into there. I've recorded 3 more chapters of Queen Moo, which I only did 2 videos on. That was like a year and a half ago, actually, 18 months or more. I wanted to kind of work my way into feeling comfortable doing audiobooks, and that was like me getting my feet wet. And the Queen Moo book is just one of my favorite books of all time and is really correlates to a lot of the stuff I've been posting over the years. Before I ramble too long, 101, look at that, perfect timing. I didn't think I'd get over 100 of you to join me, so I'm super, super excited about that. Yeah, long time. Thank you. Where you been? Fam's good. Where have I been? Well, in short, I resigned from my career of almost 20 years and took a year off to be with my family and my kids. And intermixed inside of that, I also came to the decision that it was time to step away from social media and YouTube. Um, for those of you that don't know, um, I got I was putting a lot of work into kind of a collaboration with Old World Florida at the time, and um, he pushed me into kind of starting my own channel, and I got the ball rolling, and it kind of got away from me, and the amount of time and investment uh, was a little more than I was prepared for, and got overwhelmed, and everything else in life kind of suffered. So, yeah, um, back settled in a new career, kind of, so to say, and wanted to get this back going. I've been reading a lot more, and I had taken a break from newspapers. I mean, it was about 10 straight years of reading and anywhere from 1 to 20 newspapers a day. And I just needed a break. So, feeling rejuvenated and motivated and excited, which towards the end there wasn't feeling that way. But so, kind of a quick synopsis. And yeah, plans for the future for a lot of you are kind of late to the live stream. Um, Anomalous America is my main priority. Getting through all the states, obviously, that's number one. So if I find myself lacking in time and motivation, my priority is always going to be that and getting those out every 2 weeks. That's like the biggest unfinished chapter in my storied YouTube career, so to say. So that's the priority. I think that's probably people's most favorite, but I have been working on other things. Radium's right up there with something I enjoy just as much as Anomalous America. But yeah, so that's kind of a short synopsis of where I've been and kind of the direction that I see the channel going in. And I really want to open the whole thing up to, so again, you can contact me on Instagram and Twitter and my email. I'm going to be checking those every day, or, at least every other day. And I want to try to get in contact with more people state by state, and because I had quite a few emails of people, giving me some good little tidbits here and there from, their stomping grounds, and try to work some of that material into the coming videos. So anybody seeing this live stream from North Dakota or, has some interesting information, feel free to reach out, DM, send me an email. And hopefully as I get more um, in the process of replying to those things and feeding that kind of back and forth, I'll be able to get more good kind of boots on the ground information from locals and work that into the episodes. So yeah, Anomalous America, Radium, and kind of finishing up the Monsters Beasts series. That kind of working that all into the vapor canopy, pre-flood, post-flood, you know, the what the world was like before, and how these giants and the mythological stories and how this kind of blending of periods, my sweet spot of the late 1700s and the 1800s, of these things that were being kind of covered up and hidden, and how those translated into the material I post on this channel. But yeah, I got a decent article here as far as time. I want to go through chat here real quick. And yeah, holy crap, it's getting away from me. I do a good job of rambling and not spending enough time in chat, and I want to try to do the opposite of that. This article I'm going to go through and read is called American Antiquities: The Revolutions of Time. It's from 1850. And that's how we'll finish this up, but I want to look through this here real quick. Would make an amazing coffee table book. Monsters. Yeah. Okay. So I'm reading from bottom up, just a heads up. Yeah. So again, feel free to go through my playlists. Biogeological Memories, The Etruscans, Hidden Mysteries of the Americas, Buried Empires, Pacific Island Mysteries, Anomalous America, the Archivist series, Radium series. Another one, I'd say probably my top 3 things that I really would like to focus on someday, down the road. I haven't scheduled anything, is getting the Archivist series, kind of my, so to say, podcast interview format back up and running. I've come across a lot of material and content creators that I really would love to have a one-on-one with. And so, in the back of my mind, that's always been something that I've really wanted to get back on the ground. But yeah, anyways, comments. 9 strong, thank you. Thanks for being here. A lot of new faces. Welcome back, Ben. I made a video with a piece of your research in it. Love from Australia. Thank you, Saturn. Beautiful. So yeah, like I said, stay tuned to social media if that's your thing. If it's not, again, no big deal. I don't blame you one bit. Try to get in and out, but there'll be a lot more posts. You know, I would say probably every other day is what I'm shooting for. Peace, y'all. Another channel called Archivist. I thought it was you. Yeah, I saw that, Paul. Actually, somebody sent me that. Like the Archivist, like the exact same thing. And similar content, if I remember correctly. Can't say I'm surprised. I've been really blown away by how much AI stuff there is out there, just channels creating video, audio, completely AI generated. In this whole kind of Tartary, quote unquote Tartary scene has just been crazy. So many duplicates. But yeah, I did see that. Mix radium with beet juice. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got about 3 more videos worth of radium stuff, and then maybe we'll wrap it up with talking about kind of the zeitgeist movies and comics and stuff like that, working the radium stuff into the social framework of things and how it's like, truth is stranger than fiction for sure. And how it's just kind of right in front of you, especially in the quote sci-fi realm. Respect for you taking the time from you and your family. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that, Dillian. Make use of free and other AI to automate your workflow. Thank you, Smitty. Yeah, yeah. I dabbled a lot in AI 2 years ago or so when I was first getting the channel up and running. It was just not at all what I wanted. It's definitely come a lot farther as far as polished and user friendly. So definitely possible, but we'll see. I haven't dabbled enough with the new stuff yet. South UK here. 11-month hiatus is over. Yeah, thank you, Alone in the West, if you're still here. There is someone using your channel name on YouTube. Another person. Yeah, I got that actually sent to me less than a week ago, and the material is eerily similar. Can't say I'm surprised. Yeah. Anyways, let's get back here to the bottom. I'm going to open it up to anything is in particular that maybe would like for me to focus on, something I may have missed. Kind of staring at your comments here, see if there's anything that pops out, and then I'm going to jump into this article. It's probably going to take me half an hour to read through and discuss, and then we'll keep it short and sweet. So yeah, if there's anything you want to say or anything you'd like for me to focus on, shout it out now, please. Michelle Gibson. Yeah. I've never had talks with her, but I mean, obviously our material is very adjacent, so I would love that. We don't live long enough. The truth is hard to find. We get too old from working our whole life. Yeah, for sure. It's hard to find time. That's 100% true. Would love more on old world Mormonism. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, here's the thing too, is like the hardest thing about the anomalous series is the amount of material I have to leave out. I try to keep it 2 hours at the most. And Utah was one of those states where I had easily 2 or 3 more hours of material left over. Same with Arizona, same with Alaska. So it's tough choosing what makes the cut. And then, I end up going off on a tangent and talking about things, and I don't get nearly as much material worked into the episodes. But yeah, I don't have anything in the work as far as old world Mormonism, but I definitely discussed it quite a bit in my Utah Anomalous America episodes. Mounds. Yeah, I mean, I try to mounds are like huge part of every one of these episodes. And North Dakota is going to have some good stuff on mounts. Great Conjunction video. Yeah, Michelle Gibson's really good. Yeah, and I years ago I had watched almost all of her videos, but I haven't seen any of her material as of late. So I'll have to try to see if I can work in some time and see what she's been working on lately and if any of it correlates. I remember like a lot of her old world rivers and dams and um, stuff correlated with a lot of my stuff. So I'm sure there would be plenty to talk about. The underground tunnel systems and old world buildings in Budapest would be amazing to dive deeper into. Budapest. Yeah. Wow. That's funny. I don't know if you've seen my um, Twitter posts on Budapest, but yeah, amazing city, very ancient, and um, part of the early theory of mine about cities that are wiped and then rebuilt on was Budapest, just what they found underground there in the 1800s. I was thinking along the lines of looking into more Moorish stuff. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to do that too. That'd be a good segue with Michelle Gibson because I know that's a big part of. Maybe she doesn't talk about that much anymore. I don't know, but she used to a lot. Strip mining or hydrojet mining in the old world. Yeah. Um, Mining is also something I bring up in just about every Anomalous America episode, as westward expansion and mining were hand in hand, right? The importation of children, orphans, mining. Yeah, it's all the same storyline for sure. Um, as far as diving deeper into that, there's my origins of coal biological memories. I kind of mentioned that earlier when I started talking on here. That is something I would like to get further into. Um, I'm hoping as I get a little more comfortable and ease back into this to get Stellium 7 back on, and and that'll be a good jump start to kick kick off the kind of biogeological um, living geology, so to say. I think that'd be a good point for that. Uh, you and Longo shouting at the Micmac is the reason. Oh, appreciate you, man. Yeah, yeah. Haven't talked to Longo in a while. Definitely need to reach out. He took a little break too, it seems like. So maybe we can come together for something here in the future. Obviously, I'd love that. My lunch break has had a few videos on it. What are we talking about? Is this the strip mining? I'm sorry, I must the underground tunnel systems. Okay, that must be what you're talking about. Yeah. Again, I've had his material sent to me tons of times, and he's posted stuff that I posted years ago. That's come into his circle. I doubt through me, but there's been a lot of my stuff reposted over and over and over. And I don't need credit, but there's certainly things that if I had gotten some credit uh, years ago, that maybe I would have been able to establish these kind of relationships now. But I would love to sit down and talk to him. I think we have so many things in the same wheelhouse that again it would be for an amazing episode. Virginia episode, yeah, Amy. Again, probably the number 2 email is when am I going to do X state? I'm kind of following the oceans and the rivers. So my whole thing was I started in Alaska and came down the whole West Coast and went all the way to the Mississippi and then found my way up the Mississippi. Now I'm working through the Missouri. And the whole reason for that was just kind of like one of the things that was brought up earlier was mounts. I found that the kind of idea of American antiquities and ancient America followed the waterways, which makes complete sense. So I can't say I'm going to finish every state in the central part of America before I move over to the East Coast. I haven't gone that far, and I don't want to. I don't even want to think about that. So all I have so far is North Dakota and South Dakota. I'll probably finish in Wyoming, Idaho, and then if I skip a state or move to another direction, the same people are going to ask me about, when is the Idaho episode or the Wyoming episode. I just kind of let the material come to me. So, excuse me. Oh, Budapest. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. If you follow me on Twitter, you should look up my old posts on Budapest and some of the crazy stuff in Turkey. It's all underground, like every city. No one does stuff on the box saga anymore. Is there nothing left to extract from it? I've actually had this question, pardon me, asked a few times, and all I've linked is Longo's video on the box saga. It's my favorite. I've watched it several times. So I wouldn't say there isn't more juice to be squeezed, so to say, but that's my favorite synopsis, and that's the one I stick to. But yeah, it's the Archivist. Holy hell! Well, I'm back. Good to be back. I'm glad you are excited, because I am, and seeing how many people are joining this live chat really makes me feel good. I was pretty nervous, to be honest. It's a long time to take off, and so to say, I'm not watering the plants of the channel, and I wasn't expecting this kind of response, so I'm pretty excited. I don't want to. We'll take a few more. Here. What else am I missing? I can't even read them fast enough. Oh, Many Feathers, good to see you. So happy to see you. Thanks. Great to be seen. Origins of Cold. Thanks for linking those. Yeah. So again, I can't say it enough. The playlists. For any of you that are maybe 1 or 2 episodes into my channel and haven't been with me from the very beginning, the playlists, there's just obviously 225 videos, tons of material. So whether you're a new or old listener, I'm sure there's something you missed. Berserking History. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I get to New York, for sure. Buffalo, Mr. Buffalo. A special on America's 250th birthday would be interesting. That's a great idea, McMac, for sure. Yeah. Get into some astrology, and your work has value, mate. Thank you. Appreciate it. We thought you up in smoke. I don't know, Robert, about that. Best YouTube channel out of all. Stop. You could add value to your research if you learn a bit about the electric universe model. I talk about the electric universe model quite a lot, especially in my southern, southwestern states stuff, when I discuss the biological scarring of the earth, and I mentioned them a few times. I don't have quite the same, plasma is one of my favorite subjects. I talk about plasma quite a lot in the radium series, the importance of it. The idea that the earth is a massive battery, so to say, and we're living on an accretion disk inside a toroid, and how electricity shapes the realm. Jay Dreamers, good to see you, man. Yeah, good to be back. Thanks for noticing. Yeah, look funny how he shows up as I'm talking about plasma. That's not a coincidence at all. So yeah, if you want more on plasma, don't be afraid to check out Jay Dreamers. And yeah, but yeah, where was I? The electric universe model. I lean towards more the idea that we're in an encapsulated closed realm, right? Nature abhors a vacuum. We're certainly in one. So some of their materials, as far as this kind of celestial universal scarring of planets and stuff like that, it's not really in my cosmology, so to say, but they do provide a lot of great material, and I would never be able to do it justice in just the little spurts that I bring it up. Yeah, great idea again on the 250th anniversary. I'll have to keep that in mind. Send me a message on Instagram if you wouldn't mind, McMac, please. I would like to do that as well. One of the few channels I recommend. That's great. I appreciate that. New Jersey. I mean, I got lots of posts on New Jersey. Definitely a lot of good stuff. Every state is full, you guys, packed full. All right. Broke 130. Feels amazing. Thank you so much. The 130 of you here. We're going to jump into this article. Again, 1853, American Antiquities, the Revolutions of Time, and Origin of Races. Not everything in this channel represents my opinions. Not everything in this article, represents my opinions. So I have to remind the listeners, sometimes that things that they say can be a little disingenuous, rude, slightly racist. So things to keep in mind. But yeah, let's get into the article. I don't even know how to share my screen now. Everything has changed, so bear with me here. Oh my goodness. New layout, manage layouts, present. Share screen. That's embarrassing. Okay. Oh man. It's the little things. Okay, how do I get rid of me? How do I do? There we go. All right. Like I said, American Antiquities. This article's from 1853. Just felt like it. I wanted to have something to share, and this is one I haven't shared before. And yeah, since we're talking about time off and coming back after a year, I wanted something time adjacent, but also, in my wheelhouse, American Antiquities. Origin of Races, different complexions of mankind, and the power and omnipotency of the two agents, fire and water. With what remarkable anxiety we endeavor to obtain a knowledge of what has passed of our origin, and what wonderful agencies we have arrived at our present condition in the world. How came the world on which we live to be what it is? And how came civilized man to be what he is? There are a great variety of theories on these interesting subjects, and the earnestness manifested by the more intelligent of the human race to know the past is even greater than that which impels them to obtain a knowledge of what is to become of them hereafter. What a great paragraph, huh? I think that kind of sums up everybody here. If you're following my channel, it's because you have that same fire. Time has produced great revolutions in animated and inanimated nature. If matter existed from all eternity, never had a beginning, nor will ever cease to exist, it is most unquestionably true that it is perpetually undergoing change. Change is fundamental law, and the study of it is one of the most interesting occupations of the human mind. There is an Arabian fable styled The Revolutions of Times, which is thus narrated. The narrator is supposed to have lived many thousands of years upon the earth, and to have traveled extensively, noted the various changes which took place on the surface of the globe, in a great number of places, and to have been conversant with the various generations of men that succeeded each other for more than 3,000 years. The fable may be regarded as illustrative of the antiquities and changes in every division of the globe we inhabit, of every country on it, and particularly America, which is so full of interesting relics of the past, though so new in the written history of the world. The name of this celebrated fabulous traveler was Kadir, and his narrative is as follows. Before I jump in, see if there's anything I'm missing in chat. Joseph P. Farrell says Gabriel Cron figured out the electric uniform correctly, supposedly. How many of us out here using this Ben and others work within our family circles? Well, that's a slippery slope. But if you're able to, and you have family discourse that is that open that you can talk about these things, that's a beautiful thing. Because there aren't a lot of, the whole point of this channel and making connections on the internet is because there was nobody in my physical realm that I could speak freely with about these subjects. And so the creativity and working these things out, has that was why YouTube was such a blessing. So yeah, that if you have, you know, real life friends that you can speak with these things with and share these things with, that's a beautiful thing. All right, here we go. I was passing a populous city, and I asked one of its inhabitants how long this city had been built. He said, "This is an ancient city. Neither its present inhabitants nor their fathers before them know when it was built. 500 years afterwards, I passed that way again, but no trace of the city was seen. I saw a man gathering herbs." And let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. If that's better for you guys, so you can read along. Gathering herbs, and I asked him how long the city that had once occupied that place had been destroyed. The country had always been thus. I said, "But there was a city here." He then said, "We have seen no city here, nor have we heard of such from our fathers." After 500 years, I passed that way again and found a lake, and on it saw a company of fishermen, and said to them, "When did this land become a lake?" They said, "Why do you ask this question? This place has never been but what it is now." "But here, therefore," said I, "it was dry land." They said, "We never saw it so, nor heard of it from our fathers." Then after 500 years I traveled that way again, and beheld the lake was dried up. I met a solitary man, and said to him, "When did this spot become dry land?" And he said, "It was always thus." "But formerly," said I, "it was a lake." And he said, "We never say it was, nor heard of it before." 500 years afterwards I returned, and found a populous and beautiful city, finer than it was when I first saw it, and asked one of its inhabitants, "When was this city built?" And he said, "Truly this is an ancient place. We know not the exact date of its building, nor neither do our fathers." This fabulous narrative is full of matter for deep reflection, isn't it? I mean, how many times have we covered stories just like this? The art of printing would at this day prevent the full application of the fable to changes on the globe's surface which take place in our time. Yet time's revolutions are beautifully portrayed in the narrative. The human race and the globe on which they live have everywhere experienced terrible revolutions. Pestilence, wars, and convulsions by fire and water have annihilated whole races and species of animated nature, the proudest works of man, and transformed the earth's surface again and again in the process of time. If those who differ about the origin of the antiquities of the West, those ruins of a former age, those imperishable memories of ages long since swallowed up in the ocean of time, would read the Arabian fable, they would not feel so sanguine that they had hit on the right explanation of the origin of the antiquities of America, nor of the race or races of men who constructed them. It would be superfluous to ask the wild Arab who was the owner of the superb palace within whose walls he has built his tent, or to inquire of a poor fisherman or plowman about the ruins of Carthage or Troy. Alas, they have vanished and left but the melancholy lesson of the instability of the most stupendous labors of our race. There is the strongest possible evidence that the globe has undergone many terrible convulsions, and that the human race have been destroyed by them and by wars and pestilence. That America has been the homes of thousands of millions of human beings through a long period of the past, perhaps millions of years. There is no reasonable doubt that there have been portions of this long period when the inhabitants were far more enlightened than the various tribes of Indians which Columbus found here. There is no doubt. The evidences of this superior intelligence consist in our Western antiquities and in those in every section of North and South America. Before we close this article, we shall allude to some of these antiquities and to the recent discovery of ruined cities in the country known as the Great Basin of California. We will now offer a few remarks on the origin of the variety of color of human skin. There are two grand hypotheses respecting the origin of human complexions. It is asserted by many that diversity of climate and food are all that is required to have produced the red, the black, and the white skin, and that all the intermediate mixtures may result from the same cause, or in part from an intermingling of the procreative powers of the several races. This idea will admit of another, which is that all mankind originated from one parent stock, and that much of the physical and intellectual diversity of human character may have been produced by diversified climate and a custom mode of living, acting through a long series of generations. In opposition to this theory, it is asserted that no distance of space, lapse of time, change of climate, or diversity of diet can possibly change the color of the Ethiopian skin or remove the leopard spots. Lapse of ages will not change a white man and his paternity to the hue or shape of an African. Although the hottest rays of the burning clime of Libya may have fallen upon him for ages unnumbered, and its soil have fed him with roots and berries an equal length of time. It may brown him deeply, or even blacken him, but it will not give him the woolly hair, the African lip, and the nose, and other characteristics of the Ethiopian race. Though a white man may tan very dark, climate, it is said, will never alter the shape of his face nor make him lose the characteristics of his race. Neither is it contended is there any power in the decomposition or digestion of food in the human stomach that has the formation of the blood for it, that is sufficient to make the changes alluded to. Whatever a man may eat, or whatever climate he may inhabit, or whatever air he may breathe, it will not interfere with those first principles of his nature, which exhibit themselves in his color or physical characteristics. Were it not so, it would be easy for the African in the process of time to get rid of the chains of slavery by shaking off his black skin and become a white man. We know very well, and the point is undisputed because everybody has proof of it, that degenerative influence or the procreative powers will impart all the peculiarities of the race. It is the power that gives to the skin its tinge, to the human form its peculiar shape, and imparts every variety of the race. By what laws this principle is governed is a question involved in darkness and never will be fully understood. The two sexes, conjointly perhaps, impart to the little embryo in the womb of its mother some of the characteristics of both parents, and all the characteristics of the race, just as they impart the heredity diseases, gout, consumption, insanity, scrofula, and other maladies, which are transferred from generation to generation. We do not, however, feel warranted in saying that climate and food has nothing to do with our physical characteristics, but merely give the argument of those who do say so. But if these causes or some other have not produced the different colors of races, then how are we to account for this diversity? It is quite certain that a white male and female, nor their descendants through endless ages, could not beget an Ethiopian child, nor an Ethiopian man and woman a white child. In what way, then, did the black, white, and red races originate? If they all come from one couple, and the laws of generation or procreation have always been as now, and climate and food produce no change, then there would have been but one race. The difficulty is reconciled by some in this way. Pardon me, I need to drink something. Though it is an assumed solution of it, yet in yet it is ingenious and is very generally believed by theologians of Bible faith. They assert that before the flood there was but one race, and that the red. Adam and Eve and all their posterity were of the red complexion. But after the flood, God provided for the three races, the three different colors, red, black, and white. Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, are said to have been the persons in whom the Almighty laid the foundation of the three complexions. Shem was the firstborn of Noah and was red, like his father and mother, and like all the people of the world before the flood. Dr. Clark says that Shem signifies renown in the language of Noah, or pure Hebrew. Shem's posterity spread over the finest regions of Upper and Middle Asia, Armenia, Mesopotamia, Assyria, Media, Persia, and the Indus, Ganges, and it is believed to China. The word Ham signifies that which was burnt or black. His posterity peopled the hot regions of the earth on both sides of the equator. Josephus says that Adam, or the first man, was a red man, made of pure red earth, called virgin earth. The word Adam, he says, signifies the color which is red. All the antediluvians were red, and Noah's firstborn Shem was also red or copper colored. Ham was of a glossy black color, and his descendants were destined to live in Africa and southern climes of Asia and the hot climates of the globe. Noah's third son, Japheth, was a white man, the first white man that ever existed. When the news of the birth of Japheth was first received by his father, Noah, the old man, seemed to be greatly surprised, even more so than when the first black child, Ham, was ushered into the world. He saw that Japheth was a fair and ruddy boy, beautifully white, and he is said to have cried out in ecstasy of joy and surprise, Japheth, which word became his name. He then said that God would greatly enlarge Japheth, and that he should dwell in the tents of Shem and Ham, and that the latter should be his servant, so that in a political sense he was higher than the other two sons. When Ham was born and the news came to Noah, and he saw he was black, he cried out, Ham! The whole tent of Noah was in an uproar on account of the strange complexion of the child, he being the first black infant that was ever born. Hence Noah thought he would name the boy as he looked, so he called him Ham, which is black. If this solution of the origin of the three colors is a true one, there was no plurality of fathers in order to change the color of the child, but Noah was the father of a pretty red, deep, and glossy black and a beautiful white child, all born by a red or copper colored mother, a descendant of Adam, who was made of pure red or virgin earth, and Eve, who was made from one of his red ribs. There is a tradition of the priests of the most ancient race of Africans which corroborates this origin of colors. This tradition, after explaining the origin much as above, says that after the death of Noah, these three sons set about to divide his property fairly, which consisted of gold, silver, vestments of silk, linen and wool, horses, camels, dromedaries, sheep and goats, arms, furniture, corn, and other provisions, besides tobacco and pipes. They spent nearly a whole day in assorting all of these things, and then smoked a friendly pipe together and agreed to defer the partition until they had rested for the night. The white brother awoke first from his sleep, and moved by avarice, he seized all the gold and silver and precious stones, the most beautiful vestments, and loaded the best camels with them, and put off at the top of his speed to the country which his white posterity had ever since occupied. The Moor, or tawny brother, the red one, next awoke, and seeing what his white brother had done, he, in great haste, seized the remainder of the camels and horses, oxen, and the second best choice of the vestments left, and retired to another part of the world, where his descendants still reside. The black son, who was the laziest brother of the three, awoke and saw what he had done, and had no alternative but to seize on the lot of remnants, the tobacco and the pipes, which he did, and sat down in a pervasive melancholy mood, and swore that one day he would have his revenge. He finally landed somewhere in Egypt or Libya, Africa, and was not yet been able to get full satisfaction, though in some of the general massacres of the whites, where the blacks have the power, they have had a partial fulfillment of the prediction in the tradition. Very learned writers have seized upon this tradition to prove their theory about the origin of the diversity of the human complexion. It shows what resources men will grasp to sustain an argument. That man in his different variety emanated in the order of nature from the different sources, and has progressed by slow degrees to his present state of perfection or superiority over the rest of the animal creation, and far above the original parent stock, is the theory of some very eminent men. But it is not our intention to decide on the reasonableness or absurdity of this theory, which only supposes that man is a production of nature, like a tree or a plant or any other animal. To those who suppose that the Bible account of his origin is a mere allegory, resting upon no higher authority than some of the many traditional accounts of pagan or heathen nations, we would say erect your own theory and then carefully examine it and see if it seems more plausible than that given by Moses or others. The celebrated Monbodo, who labored hard to prove that man descended from monkeys, may have felt as though he had solved the problem of his origin, but his arguments, when tested by the rules of reason, seem still more absurd than those we have been considering. We have thus dwelt upon the question of man's origin because it is much to do with the question of American antiquities. Whence came the people that constructed the mounds, the tumuli, and other evidences that America is an old country, peopled by hundreds of millions of human beings, far more enlightened than the red men when Columbus landed upon our shores? Let us commence with the statement that when Noah made his will, he gave to Shem 138 of you guys. Thanks for joining in. It's good to be back. Hope you're enjoying this so far. That was a bit of a long preamble there on the skin color and races of men. But as he said, and I couldn't have said it better myself, you must put in the time and the effort and come to your own conclusions. But yeah, now we're getting into the antiquities of America part, right? Hundreds of millions. America was peopled by hundreds of millions, not the new world as stated by Columbus, but the true old world. East to Ham, all of Africa, and to Japheth, the continent of Europe, with all its isles and northern parts of Asia, and perhaps America, which is now in possession of his posterity. At the time, the various continents of the world may have all been united. We need not wonder how people from Asia or Europe got to America 4,000 or 50,000 years ago, as there is the strongest evidence that within the length of time, the whole face of the globe may have been changed. If this is not long enough, take the history of the Chinese, which goes back millions of years. The various islands in the Pacific Ocean may be only small portions of a greater body of land that once united Asia and America. Yeah, check out my Pacific Mysteries playlist where I go into all the Pacific Island explorations in the 1800s and the stuff they were finding. They're coming to the same conclusions. And the same may be said of the Atlantic, and Europe and Africa. Indeed, there is strong evidence that such has been the condition of the globe at a period far back in the past. Of course, ocean levels may not be the highest they've ever been, but they're certainly up there. And there's plenty of evidence just 20, 30 feet below all the oceans, all the beaches and rivers of the realm to show civilizations go 20, 30, 50 feet deep in the water, if not more. Let us look then at the antiquities of America. In no part of the countries of the old world are there so many evidences of antiquity as in America. Asiatic or European antiquities. And the relics of the remote past have been celebrated in poetry and sober history. The ancient empires of Rome, Greece, Babylon, Egypt, Persia, China, and of the rest of Europe, Asia, and Africa have engaged in the profound attention of the learned, and now America is about to awake her story from an oblivious sleep and tell her tale of antiquities. The mounds and the tumuli of the West are to be ranked among the most wonderful antiquities of the world, on account of their number, magnitude, and obscurity of origin. Several hundred of them are found on the banks of the mighty Mississippi, the largest of which is near Wheeling on the Ohio. This mound is 50 rods in circumference and 90 feet high. And again, for any of you tuning in that haven't followed me along my anomalous series up the Mississippi, we've shown that many of these mounds were earthen mounds, but a large portion of these mounds were stone mounds, just like you'd see in Egypt. Massive stones going 20, 30, 40, 50 feet below ground with tunnels connecting them. I can't recommend what was it? My Missouri episode. If you want to go deeper into the mound stuff, I make that a big focus. But yeah, a lot of these pyramids, a lot of these mounds were pyramidal, made out of huge stone blocks with tunnels connecting them. Obviously, many of them were earthen mounds, burial mounds, but many of them were not burial mounds. It must have stood near some large city, compared to which any Western city of the present day appears but a small village. It is filled with numberless skeletons and was doubtless a place of general deposit of the dead for ages, who were placed one above another until it reached its natural climax, agreeing with the slope rising from the base or foundation. That it was made by the ancestors of our modern Indians, unless they have greatly degenerated, is not credible. Yeah, we've covered that. Some Indians say tall black men, some Indians say tall red-headed white men. Some Indians say that these have been here for 10 generations and our fathers know nothing of the men who built them. I would go back to my Michigan episode where we get a little more in depth talking about the Phoenicians and probably the last remnant of, quote, Europeans um, mining and trading all the way up in the Missouri and the Mississippi. Its magnitude and the vast numbers of dead deposited in it prove that a race of men who lived a roving, hunting, and fishing life could not have transported their dead so far to one place. In some of these mounds, not only bones of the dead are found, but implements of warfare entirely unknown to the Indians. At Marietta, the first place settled in Ohio, there are the ruins of extensive fortifications consisting of walls and mounds of earth running in straight lines from 6 to 10 feet high and for some 40 feet broad at their base. I also go into depth talking about star forts and showing how the star forts predate the French, and there's no way the French could have built them. And America is covered in hundreds and hundreds of star forts. Unlike European star forts and some of the star forts you find all over the globe, America's star forts have been buried. I think one of the more recent cataclysms, or at least destructive ones, was here in America. And that's why, especially the American Southwest, but predominantly everything west of the Mississippi was completely flattened or buried under 10, 20, 100 feet of mud. In my California episode of Anomalous America, we talk about cities being found at 100 feet below ground level. And remember what we said in the beginning of this article, right? What the guy was saying and why I liked it so much is that he visited the same place every 500 years and it was never the same and nobody knew anything about what he experienced. I think that's just such a good analogy for the realm we inhabit. Every few hundred years, it's wiped clean. Where was I? Fortifications. Right. One of these forts covers near 50 acres of land. There are openings in the fortification, which are supposed to have been one thronged by a busy multitude and used as gangways, with a passage from one of them formed by two parallel walls of earth, leading towards the river. The contrivance is evidently one for defense against the surprise of an enemy. Within this fort are elevated squares situated at the corners, 180 feet long by 130 feet broad, 9 feet high, and level on the top. Now remember, when they're describing these dimensions, that's just the tippy top that's left over, right? We talk about mud flood a lot. But just like these earthen mounds, these pyramidal structures, these walls that I've covered in so many episodes, when they dig down the walls and they dig down these pyramids, they never reach the bottom. Some of these gigantic megalithic walls that they found all over the Americas, 40, 50, 60 feet, never find the bottom. I would think of the same with these. One of these squares, there were doubtless placed some modes of annoyance to a besieging enemy, such as engines to throw stones, or a dart or spear, or some other weapon of defense, which they may have adopted. Around these forts are large mounds filled with human bones and articles of pottery, charcoal, and other relics. The base of the one of these mounds is over 100 feet in circumference and is encompassed by a ditch, defended by a parapet or a wall beyond the ditch, breast high and having an entrance to the fort. In one place was found the skeleton of a man buried exactly east and west, having on his breast a quantity of isinglass, which is considered sacred by the Mexicans and adorned as a deity. There are those who argue that the Romans built these forts. Now, remember, again, go look at my Etruscan series. Who were the Etruscans? Well, they were these Mayans or Aztecs. Obviously, there's an interchange there. Who came before who? You know, they say Mayans and Aztecs came later, but who are Romans, right? Are Romans just like Aztecs? Did the Romans come after, right? Because we talk about in my Etruscan series that Rome is built on the foundations of a previous civilization, just like we mentioned earlier in this article. Inheritors, so to say. Are we living in an inherited realm? The Romans living in an inherited realm? What about the 1800s? So many of you have seen all these beautiful, massive, huge cities all over the realm that are completely empty in the 1800s. It is quite certain that it corresponded with the description which Josephus gives of the forms of Roman camps and military camps. For 400 years, the Romans had all of the west of Europe attached to their empire, and it is asserted that they may have found their way to America. There are Etruscan cities in Central America, right? When they invaded the island of Britain before the Christian era, we are informed in the history of England that their ships were so large and drew such a depth of water that the soldiers had to swim ashore in order to land. We only mention this as an opinion of some who express it in all candor. In corroboration of this opinion that both the Grecians and Romans had a knowledge of the existence of America and had visited it prior to the invasion of Britain, we refer to a discovery of one of the planters of South America. Not more than a quarter of a century ago, he resided near Montevideo and discovered in a field at a short distance a sort of tombstone. He caused it to be raised, and under it found two exceedingly ancient swords, a helmet, and a shield much destroyed with rust, also an earthen vessel of great capacity. Upon this stone slate was a Greek inscription, which was translated as follows: During the dominion of Alexander, the son of Philip, king of Macedon, in the 63rd Olympiad, Ptolemaeus. Now, throughout all of my archivist stuff, we continually talk about out-of-place artifacts, and Roman, quote, Roman artifacts are found all over the Americas and in many of these mounds. The rest could not be deciphered on account of the ravages of time. On the handle of one of the swords was a portrait of Alexander the Great, and on the helmet there is sculptured work representing Achilles dragging the corpse of Hector around the walls of Troy. This discovery is regarded as proof that some of the ancient Greek philosophers has once trod the soil of Brazil and La Plata in South America. It is not impossible, but the Danes, Norwegians, and the Welsh may have first obtained some knowledge of the Western islands, islands, and territories from the Romans and handed down the story till the Scandinavians or Norwegians discovered Ireland, Greenland, and America many centuries before Columbus did. There is evidence that a Greek fleet once moored on the coast of Brazil, and it is supposed that this was the fleet of Alexander the Great. The ancient Greeks and Romans fitted out voyages of discovery that never returned, and these cases were so frequent that it was made criminal to engage in them anymore. The reader then will see that the above is not all conjecture. M. Volney, in his view of America, has explained the analogy between the ancient nations of Italy and Greece and the American Indians. One need only have watched my videos with Old World Florida, Dr. Longo, for that to be completely evident, right? Again, my Etruscan series shows an undeniable correlation between ancient Italy and ancient Mexico. They were brother sister colonies. And Greece, many of the ancient American Indians spoke Greek, wrote Greek, and yeah, lots of material in my channel that correlates what this gentleman's saying here. There are a great variety of proofs of resemblance between the ancient Romans and Grecians and the American Indians. You know, the toga, right? Many of the quote um, priests or shamans or holy men of these Indian tribes wore the toga. On the other hand, there are traits of the existence of white nations in Georgia, Kentucky, and other states long before Columbus's time. This is also a good transition because, like I had mentioned earlier, my introduction video that I'm going to be doing for Anomalous America episode 24 in North Dakota, where I'm going to be covering the Mandans, it's going to be looping back into this section. We're going to talk about South America, Prince Matic, and kind of correlating some of this quote, buried empires of ancient America. Many shafts have been sunk in pursuit of the ore. Oh, I apologize. The gold mines of North Carolina and Georgia have near them the remains of ancient works. Many shafts have been sunk in pursuit of the ore, and judging from the masses thrown up, we find one of the shafts must have penetrated a quartz rock to a great depth, as about 30 feet still lies open to view. Nearby are the remains of a small furnace, the walls of which had been formed of soapstone, so as to endure great heat without fracturing. In Habersham, Georgia, was dug out of the earth at a great depth a vessel made of tin, copper, and iron. Now, I cover iron artifacts found all over America, and really important because, again, it throwing off this kind of whole Iron Age mythos, right? Iron weapons. Yeah. The miners of the present day frequently find earthen vessels, crucibles, which bear the heat much better than those of our own manufacture. Again, they find swords, copper tempered helmets. You know, tempering copper is something we don't even have down that well today. And many of these things they found were beyond our level of manufacture, right? On the top of a mountain near the same place are the remains of a stone wall, which exhibit the angles of a well-constructed fortification and guards the only accessible point of ascent to its summit. Mr. Richardson of the same county, on whose farm was opened the first gold mine in Georgia, on excavating the stone stratum of the bed of a small river, found 3 feet below the surface in the solid rock about a pack of flints elegantly wrought for gun locks, differing a little from those now in use, yet suited for firearms, ancient firearms. We found the same thing in Ohio and Illinois. These flints were taken to Milgive, Georgia, and sold as curiosities at $0.25 each. The result of all these evidences of antiquity is that, in all probability, America is a very old country and has been at times discovered by the Danes coming from Lapland, Norway, and Finland. In Europe, the Malay, Polynesia, Australasian tribes coming from the Asiatic shores and from the islands of the Pacific Ocean and settling America from the west, and by the ancient Romans, Grecians, and the people of the island Atlantis in the Atlantic Ocean, settling America from the east. It is not probable that the builders of our western mounds were the first settlers of America. Now, we've talked about that. Many of these burial mounds are on top of ancient structures. An interesting article from the Pan of Whim writ on this subject says that there are evidences that at least 3 distinct races of men have successfully lived in America before the discovery of Columbus. The monuments of the primitive race he finds in the stone walls, brick hearths, medals of copper, silver swords, and implements of iron found in digging the Louisville Canal. A shoe of iron, something like a horseshoe, was also found, encrusted with the rust of ages, and a copper axe weighing 2 pounds, singularly tempered and of a peculiar construction. These relics are attributed to a race of men who must have disappeared many centuries ago. To them, we must attribute also the hieroglyphic characters found on the limestone bluff, the remains of cities and fortifications in Florida, and the bricks found at Louisville in regular hearths 19 feet below the surface, having on them the coals of the last domestic fire. To the second race and less civilized and progressive, he attributes the mounds and tumuli, the whole western region from Lake Erie to Florida and the Rocky Mountains, all of which display great labor and less intelligence. The third race are the Indians, now existing in the Western territories. In the profound silence and solitude of these regions, and above the bones of a buried world, how must the philosophic mind mediate upon the transitory state of human existence and the terrible revolutions of the earth through the agencies of fire and water? Here in America, generation after generation has lived, warred, grown old, and passed away, and their names, their nations, their language have perished in utter oblivion. The few relics of their once populous abodes is all we have. Call not this country a new world, it is old. Age after age, one physical revolution after another has passed over it. But who shall tell its history? All right, I'm going to take a little break and just look at chat because I need to do that more often. 145 of you here. Welcome again. It's good to be back. How do I... There we go. Oh, Brett. Good to see you. Good to see you, Brett. Miss you, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was long-winded. We got a little bit more, and then I'll go through chat a little bit more, maybe some Q&A if there is anything. Longo's going live tonight? No way. What are the odds? Is he really? Let's go check, huh? Boop, 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 boop. I don't see. No, he's going live 2 days, in 2 days. The modalities, cross symbolism of the Golden Age. Oh, that'll be a good one. Okay. Where else are we at here? Laugh a lot. We know Archaics wanted to steal Ben from Longo. That's why he said, shout. Oh man, you know, I'm not going to get involved in that drama. I haven't said anything bad about Archaics. That's not my thing. You know, I don't need to shit on anybody. That's not for me to do. And we never really had any one-on-one conversations, and he got his feelings hurt by Longo, and I was just looped into the whole thing, and it is what it is. You know, I think he's done a lot of great research and has a lot of great material, but it is what it is. That ship is gone. Burial birthing mounds. Absolutely, Big Mac. It's all celestial, right? All right. I'm going to keep reading through these. Longo has done streams. Yeah. Back in the day, they didn't see the color blue the way we see it. They referred to it as purple, then called them Phoenicians, meaning the purple people. Yeah. I mean, skin color, you know, it's hard from a definition purpose. It's a new thing. You know, we didn't acknowledge people by skin color. It was all Pangea. That is why it's all connected underground. Still to this day, Africa is closer than you know. Yeah, I mean, there's tunnels all over the realm. 100%. Just looked up and you have an episode on Texas. Absolutely, that's a good one. Texas is another state, like I mentioned earlier, where I could have done 10 hours on Texas. You know, God willing, I get through all these states and I have the time and wherewithal and the interest from you guys. I'll go back through, you know, when my editing's better. Maybe I'm actually just making videos instead of doing lives. Texas is a powerhouse. There's so much to go back to Texas. Etruscans, Rus, Red. Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a video of one of these walls, Ben. It was huge and obviously man-made block work. Yeah, yeah. I have some videos on the ancient walls of America. It is said California is not an island anymore because when Moses parted the Red Sea, he never imparted it, put it back, and the sea was called. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the algae blooms, the Red Sea, right? The what is it? Yeah, I talk about that in my California episode. Absolutely. All right. I think that's probably good. Good day from Australia. Thanks for being here, Rusty. Welcome. Who has more tattoos, Ben or Jason? Oof. I mean, I'm covered head to toe, so I don't even want to. My whole arms, chest, body, legs. It's all one piece. I live in Colorado. I love Colorado since I'm here, but I think you have the only Byron Cummings articles online now. I think you have the only. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Thrash. Can you explain further? And hopefully, I'll come back to your comment. Meant the Mayans were the people that were blue. They were calling Phoenicians. Yeah. Okay, I got you. Absolutely, I see what you mean. Yeah, Phoenicians in America, 100%. Covered that a lot in quite a few episodes. All right, let's get back to this. Here we go. Convulsions of the globe, which may have separated America from the continents east and west of it. I think it was water, right? That's certainly, I've talked about the vapor canopy. It's one of my favorite subjects. I really believe in it a lot. And I think when the vapor canopy fell, it's all part of the flood. It's all part of the ice age. And those things aren't separated by tens of thousands of years at all. They're all in a very tight window. Naturalists entertain the opinion that there has been a whole continent reaching from the north of Europe to Bering Strait and uniting Europe with America and Asia on the north, and which may have continued south from Bering Straits down the Pacific, uniting America and China on the west. If so, it is easy to perceive that before the connection was torn away by the action of water and fire, the people of Asia and Europe might have come to America. Again, I talk about Phoenician ships being found in Colorado, Moorish ships, Viking ships found in Montana, Phoenicians found in Oregon. I talk about the movies Goonies being a historical story, and that these ships are found here, and they're, the Chinese junks, and trade existed. Everyone was going everywhere. It is certain that Africa and South America approach each other in a remarkable manner along the coast of Guinea on the African side, and Pernambuco on the South American. They stretch towards each other as though they had been once united. The innumerable islands scattered all over the Pacific, populous with men more than intimates a period when the continents of Asia and America were united, and that the migration of men and animals might have taken place. Several tribes of our southern Indians have traditions that they come from the east or through the Atlantic Ocean. The various convulsions of the earth's surface, whose history is lost in the bosom of time, may have sunk the land and increased the waters on the surface. There is an account of a certain large island called by the ancient Atlantis, to which, as the story runs, it was the custom for princes to resort before they were fitted to sit on thrones. How funny is that? This Atlantis was supposed to be in the Atlantic Ocean. Plato and others mention this island. An Egyptian priest located it opposite the Strait of Gibraltar, which would place it between the southern end of Europe, the northern part of Africa, and the continent of America. This priest asserted that there was an easy passage from this island to others, which lay adjacent to a large continent, exceeding in size all of Europe and Asia. It is said that the people of Atlantis made incursions into Europe and Africa and subdued all Libya as far as Egypt, Europe, and Asia Minor, but were finally driven back to their Atlantic territories by the Athenians. Shortly after this, Plato says there was a tremendous earthquake lasting for a day and a night, and overflowing of the sea, which swallowed up all of Atlantis, its warlike people, and other splendid cities, and thus added a vast region to the Atlantic Ocean. Irving's Columbus and Dr. Robinson, the historian, also mention the story of Atlantis. They say that at the period of its existence, it may have been the bridge that permitted travel from Europe and Africa to America, connected as it may have been with other smaller islands, the Azores, Madurias, and Tenerife. Dr. Robertson supposes that this island was destroyed very far back in the ages of antiquity. The celebrated Elucid also alludes to Atlantis. He called it as large as all of Africa and alluded to the tradition that it was swallowed up by an earthquake. Now, and something else I cover a lot is that, especially again mentioning Dr. Longo, is the correlation that America is Atlantis, and it was considered so by the adepts, and it was one of the biggest secrets of ancient quote unquote masonry, Oriental mystic masonry, so on and so forth. That the secret was that America is Atlantis, and that it was buried and covered by massive wave or massive flood. Whether it's the biblical flood or not, I'm not so sure. But just look at the American Southwest; you can see a scorched earth for sure. From all these traditions and historical assertions, we may safely infer that a passage from Asia and Europe and Africa to America was easily in remote ages of antiquity. What then are the causes of the disappearance of the ancient nations of America? There is no doubt but that through the omnipotent agency of fire and water and war and pestilence, ancient America has been depopulated. The Arabian fable, which we have quoted above, solves this question. Volney was the first writer who spoke of Lake Ontario as of volcanic origin, and now it is supposed that all our lakes are such. The slow wearing away of the falls of Niagara will yet, in all human probability, drain all of our western lakes. When the strata of rock is worn away, over which the water now plunges, the lakes of the West will soon be drained. Just think of that massive, dried up waterfall in Washington, right? Largest waterfall on Earth, or would have been by volume, and it's completely dried up. So definitely think that, he's onto something here. In the event of such a catastrophe, the waters will soon flow into the headwater channel of all the rivers north, east, and south of Lake Ontario, after coming on a level with the heads of the short streams passing into the lake on its easterly side. The rivers running south, east, and north from that part of the Lake Ontario as high up as the village of Lyons are a part of the Chemung, Chenango, and Unadilla, Susquehanna, Delaware, Mohawk, and the St. Lawrence, the valleys of which would become the drains of the western lakes, thus sweeping away all of the works of man, where the lowness of the country should invite a rush of waters, leaving only the highlands and the mountains as islands when the work of submersion is over. No one can hardly imagine the consequences that will be result from the wearing away of the stratum over which the waters of Niagara flow, called Niagara Falls. We allude to these facts merely to show that the action of fire and water produce astonishing revolutions of the globe's surface, and therefore they are the chief causes of the depopulation of ancient America. Pestilence, too, is a powerful agent in this work of depopulation. The overflowing of the Nile in Egypt and the subsistence of the waters for more than 500 miles in length and 25 in width leaves an intolerable stench that originates plague, which sweeps to eternity its thousands in that country. No one can tell to what extent similar causes have operated in depopulating America, or to what extent they may again operate in the course of time. It would be curious to many of our readers to go into a further description of American antiquities, but we have already written a long article. The discoveries on the Muskingum River, the discovery of remains of ancient pottery in many places in the West, the traces of Egyptian customs in Kentucky. Now, go back to my Kentucky episode. Remember, they found 3,500 mummies in Kentucky, the most mummies in the world, taken out of America, sent to the East. In the discovery of a curious image made of ivory in a mound near Cincinnati, supposed to represent the Virgin Mary and her child Jesus. The tracks of men and animals found on the rocks of a mountain in Tennessee. Ruins of ancient works at Circlewell and Paint Creek, Ohio, including ancient wells and other curious things. Traces of ancient cities on the Mississippi. Almost done, guys. And the most innumerable evidences of ancient habitation by different people than the American Indians. We must close by an allusion to a recent curious discovery in California, the correctness of which may, however, require some further confirmation, though there is nothing in it more wonderful than we find in authenticated facts of the past. The California papers tell us that ruined cities have been discovered in a tract of country known as the Great Basin, which is on the west of the Rocky Mountains, bounded by the Mormon settlements in Utah, the Gila, Rio Grande, and the Sierra Nevada. Captain Walker, the famous mountaineer, Mr. Bale, and others who have traveled over some of this region have asserted that they have seen strewn all over evidences of ancient cities and a populous country of civilized people, which have long since disappeared. Pyramids, mounds, fortifications, and even an existing race of people of a very curious character, who, though not competent to construct the works like those which the ruins have proved have once existed there, yet are a highly agricultural people. When these stories are authenticated, we will again refer to them. There you go. That would have been like a fantastic intro article for my channel, right? Because when these stories are authenticated, we will again refer to them. Because, I mean, I've posted hundreds, if not thousands, on my Twitter over the last 12, 13 years, however long I've been doing this, and made, so many videos about the subject. But yeah, thanks for sticking with me through that one. Bit of a long one, but certainly worth it. I wanted to talk about this kind of wiping of civilizations and them being stacked on top of one another, and just kind of put those ideas back in your mind as we get back into the kind of regularly scheduled programming, so to say. But yeah, I think we got, I don't know what we get over, 150 or so. Couldn't be happier. Thanks for everybody for coming back, joining me here for 360 plus days of hiatus, and I hope you're excited for what's to come. I certainly am. But yeah, let's look through some comments here. If there's anything you want to say it now. Forever hold your peace until the next live stream. It's 5 o'clock. It's stuck right at that 90 minutes. Perfect. All right, I'm just going to read up from here. Welcome back. Thank you. Good to hear from you again, Analog. You've inspired to research in so many new ways and continue to be in it. Oh, thank you. Thanks, Reed. Appreciate that. In Atlantis, is Atlantis the continent of Mu? Is there any part of Mu that still exists today? Is this why free range air travel over the Pacific Ocean is strictly regulated? Is there in fact hidden land in the Pacific? You definitely go off radar in the Pacific. There's a lot of anomalies when it comes to flying. There's a lot of stuff. I came across a channel recently called Leaving Babylon, and she discusses the idea that there's hidden lands in the Pacific. She does a lot of really good material on it. I haven't gotten all the way through it, but I recommend her. Hopefully one day we'll get together for a chat. Should we worry about disasters for our children's lifetimes or grandchildren long term? I wonder what to do. Short term, we have to deal with chaotic state when orders. Yeah. Smitty, the best thing I could recommend is just don't live in fear. Don't only worry about what you can control. If something like that's going to happen, there's certainly nothing you can do about it. So don't worry about it. Article says Yoqui of Sonora smashed the bones with rifle butts and refused to let take the bones. I don't buy anything besides the crust. They only assume there's lava down there from deep. Yeah, Suzuki, I would recommend my Radium series. I talk about how lava is just radium melting biogeological material, i.e. tree stumps, stuff like that. Niagara Falls, boom. 20-minute ride. Yeah, amazing place. Sorry, I'm catching up, but on the topic of the electric universe, if only they can base it on the flat plane cosmology. Yeah. Electrical system. Yeah. These aren't plasma events occurring between planets and stars and stuff like that. I don't buy it for a second. Anyone that's had one of those plasma spheres as a child could see that without the vacuum and the firmament, so to say, the outer shell, that's a critical part in that whole system. Colombian enterprise to endeavor for the discovery of Atlantis on Ascension Island. Haplogroup X, speaking nations of Atlantis. Oh yeah, I think Mac's been through all of that stuff with me and Longo. We've gone deep on the Atlantis is America stuff. Hey Ben, they depict the Picts as blue skinned. Oh, Fiona, it's been a while. Yes, they do. Yep, they sure do. Yeah, race and skin color and all these things. It's as we know them. It's certainly no more than 200 years old. All celestial starports built by star people, for sure. Yeah. Who has more tattoo? Okay. So I'm back to where I was. Okay, perfect. Let's go back and see what's been. Hasn't been that long. Wasn't a hard wait. Oh, thanks, Brett. Great to see you, two UFO hunters. How did these writings get scrubbed from our learning 150 years ago, and they could be a guest on your channel? Crazy that we're considered nuts for rediscovering. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, the newspapers have been a blessing. Obviously, I wouldn't even probably have a channel without them. Just got here. Glad to see you back. Long time to see. Hope all is well. Where have you been? Just took a break from social media, internet stuff. It's long overdue. Why is moon gazing so good for your health and getting information downloads? Good question. Never tried it. The moon is an absorber, right? You know, it's a putrefier. So I that's the first I've heard of moon gazing being beneficial. My ex-girlfriend kid, his name Ben is more known as BB Ben yesterday-ish about the whereabouts. No. Cool. All right, guys. I think we're gonna wrap it up there. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Can't say it enough. So motivating. Having such an amazing turnout. Like I said, for those of you that weren't here for the beginning, 11/18, Anomalous America, episode 24, North Dakota. In between that time, there will be a teaser, so to say, intro video where I'll do a kind of a deep dive into the Mandan Indians and kind of correlate some of this article with their lore and possible correlations with Europe and so on. And I have one radium episode close to finished and a article about giant dragon-like animals found in the Americas. So 3 videos in the works, all due probably in the next 2 weeks. But yeah, the one scheduled for sure, like always, will be Anomalous America. I always do those live. I'll be posting again regularly here on Instagram and Twitter. So if you're on those, definitely stay tuned. And yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Like I also said earlier, I got my email back for this channel, archivist on yt@gmail.com. Don't be shy. You can always DM me on Twitter and Instagram. But thanks again. Appreciate every one of you. Yeah, it feels great. You know, super nervous, but couldn't have gone better. So it's like riding a bike, but still got some polishing to do. So, anyways, have a wonderful night, everybody. Bye.